Oh, you're a teacher. It must be so nice to have the summers off. Chances are, if you teach in the United States, you have heard that phrase many, many, many times. And there are so many, many, many reasons why that statement is wrong. Um, First of all, many teachers don't actually have summers off. They may have a second job, or they may be teaching summer school, or maybe they're in a childcare that operates year round, or maybe they have a situation like Wildwood Nature School where they operate summer camps. Um, I know if teachers do actually take the summers off, first of all, they're not getting paid. It's not a paid vacation. They get paid for the 10 months that they are working. And teachers often spend a lot of that unpaid time reflecting, planning, prepping for the year to come. Hello, I'm Nicole Travillas-Fravel, and this is Wildwood Teaching. And one of the ways that I always prep for the upcoming school year is with a physical refresh to the space. And that involves a lot of deep cleaning, weatherproofing outdoor furniture, right? Giving the mud kitchen a fresh new coat of sealant, for example. And I always add at least one new element just to make it interesting. I mean, some of my summer projects have been big, right? Building the tree house, the playhouse, creating the covered area so that we have protection from the rain and the sun. But many of the projects are on a smaller scale, like the garden paint wall, the PVC pipe contraption for the sand pit, adding a water pump to the mud kitchen. And most of these things are of the DIY variety, but some, like the covered area, or when I initially added all of the mud kitchen furniture, this was an upgrade from the original DIY version. Um, those were investments. And so I do always set aside a budget each year for physical enhancements. So if you are thinking about a summer refresh to your outdoor space, I suggest you start just by assessing the space and its needs, right? Is the space missing anything essential to outdoor learning? I mean, first, do you have items to take care of physical needs like a shelter or, a comfortable seating area? Do you have all of learning areas covered? Right? Can children learn anything outside? Do you have a place that's dedicated to art, to dramatic play, to building, to literacy, to math, to science? Do you have a mud kitchen, a sand pit, a water play area? Do you have a garden? Or at least some area where children can plant? Do you have the space and equipment for gross motor play? And after you've covered kind of the basics, you can think about your children's interests and what in this past year would have enhanced their play. Right now, Wildwood Nature School was built as a 2-year program. I mean, children are meant to stay from ages 3 to 5 as a 2 years before kindergarten. And so what that means is generally I've had uh, families that are returning, right? So each year you have that group of children that are returning from the previous year, and then you get a new group of children in. That new group stays the following year, and another new group comes. And so, I have the benefit of knowing some of the personalities of the past year and, what they might find interesting. But, truly, if you just look at this past year and say, what would this group of children have enjoyed? Chances are really good that somebody in your next group is also going to share that interest. So were they really interested in building? Maybe you're going to clear a space for a construction area. I saw a really cool one at a preschool in Tucson where they had plastic crates, um, different sizes and shapes of scrap lumber. They had sanded gutters to act as ramps. They had old tires. They had hard hats for the children. Everything was all neatly sorted and stored so that they took some of the plastic crates and put the building items in that so that it looked like an organized area ready for the children to interact with. Maybe that's not where your children are. Maybe they're more in need of palettes that could be built up as a stage, an area for dramatic play or music performances. Maybe this past year, all of your children spent their time crowded in the sandbox or the sand pit. And so you know that adding funnels, ramps, balances, other contraptions might enhance their sand play. Maybe they could use a water wall. We used to have a water wall at Wildwood Nature School that I fashioned out of a pallet, and it had little hooks so that children could add funnels and ramps, kind of like a marble run style that they could create for the water to flow through. After years and years outside, it fell apart. So I'm trying to figure out how I might add um, that similar idea to the chain link fence of the garden opposite the paint wall. I just haven't quite figured out how to fashion it so that children can interact with it, right? I can figure out how to permanently add ramps, but I want it to be something that the children can mix and match pieces so that it still has that Marble Run feel to it. I'm gonna figure it out. Uh, Lastly, you want to think about your own capabilities, right? Um, I have zero carpentry skills. So, whenever I add something, I need to take the time to figure out, how can I achieve this in a really simple fashion? And sometimes that could be involving the preschoolers themselves. So when I decided that a weather station would be really cool to have at Wildwood Nature School, what I spent the summer doing was researching, DIY versions of rain gauges, sundials, anemometers, wind vanes, right? So that I was all prepped in the fall to introduce this idea to the children. And if they were excited about it, to say, okay, now we're going to build each separate piece. And when we're done, we'll have a whole weather station. So sometimes the summer refresh isn't so much about the physical labor, but about the planning time that it takes to figure out, what's going to happen and what you're going to need. So I hope I gave you some ideas for a little summer refresh to keep your outdoor classroom interesting. I mean, not just for children, but for you. Right. I need the changes every year, something to get me excited about each new year. So after you've taken some time to rest, recharge, and get some energy and momentum building toward the following year by having something new that you can look forward to as well as the children. And in the meantime, join me here next week for another free episode of Wildwood Teaching. I will see you there.